Good morning. This is KHEA Radio. I'm excited. It's a beautiful Tuesday. We have Dr. Chapa here in studio. We're going to be talking and sharing a lot of really good things today, so go ahead and share this out. Let us know where you're watching from. And don't forget, you can go back and listen to this as it is readily available on all of your podcasting platforms. So Spotify, Apple Podcasts, however you get it, go back and listen to all of the episodes that we've done. Dr. Chapa, good morning. How are you doing?
Oh, Gardy, good morning to you, sir. I'm glad to be here as usual. It is so good. It is not only just a good Tuesday, it's a great week, and I'm excited about what it brings in the form of just a new day. You know, every day is just a blessing to have and an opportunity to take on the new challenges of life that come at us day in and day out, and explore and, relish in the victories that we've had in the previous week and the previous months, even though there is a lot of stresses. I mean, there's a lot of things to be thankful for, isn't there?
There is. There's always a lot of things. You can find something to be thankful for.
There's no doubt. And, I think that there's a little page out of Rick Pitino's book, Success as a Choice. I think oftentimes we don't realize how much is in our control and what things we can do ongoing, that we must do ongoing in order to maximize the successes, whether it's in our health, our finances, whether it's in our relationships, whether it's in our just day-to-day productivity. I mean, we all want to be victorious. We all want to be successful. But I think a lot of times we get up on the wrong side of the bed and we find ourselves just trying to crawl back in too early. And we just got to figure out a way to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and truck on. And I have a lot of tools in my tool bag that I use whenever I feel like I'm off. Or even if I'm trucking along great and I get derailed, how to pick myself back up and get back on the wagon, if you will. Because you never know what the day is going to bring. You just kind of take living in the moment as just that, and then having tools readily available so that when life happens, you're not like caught in a conundrum and find yourself overstressed and in a place where you're already depleted, and now that burden of stress that just came on you now is amplified. And I think that preparation is an important thing. So I've had plenty of conversations in the last week regarding just this, that I think people are getting tired. I think people are getting tired of the idea that they have to take the bull by the horns. And I just want today, to be a refreshing for you. And I want it to be a reminder that you can't quit because it's, there's people that don't know you that are depending on you to get today right? Whether it's a friend, family, a loved one, your children, yourself, and it's worth fighting the good fight, and it's worth putting on a smile and lifting somebody else's day, or like you said, being grateful for something. Find something to be thankful for. Go to that list, and you'll find great things whenever you do. And I think that at the end of the day, when you reflect back and go, I had some opportunities today to crash and burn, but I chose otherwise. Success is a choice, and all life, as we love to play the card, is that it starts and stops at the cellular level, and it's your life, your health, your choice. And we're going to take the health card and we're going to play it today. And we're going to talk about inflammation. We're going to talk about some things you can do to get rid of inflammation. And hopefully at the end of this program today, you will have a new nugget and a new appreciation for the inflammatory cascade and things you can do to absolve inflammatory processes that are running right now in your body that are making you feel headachy, brain fog, dealing with skin irritations, not sleeping well during the night, moody, irritable, having hormonal issues, whether imbalances or monthly cycles or midlife crises. There's so many things that inflammation's a driver of, and I just thought we'd talk a little bit about that and see what the day may bring.
So all those things you listed, those are warning signs, those check engine lights for inflammation?
Correct. So inflammation is kind of one of those words that I really don't like, because so oftentimes it's kind of a catchphrase. Oh, you've just got inflammation. Your joints hurt? Oh, you've just got inflammation. And, oh, you've got cancer? Oh, you've got an extreme sort of inflammation. And we've talked about it before on the show, and I believe one day you and I were talking about, if you had a campfire versus a barn versus a building, you would need a level of water to put out that fire in different ratios, depending on if it was the campfire or the building, right? And inflammation is nothing more than a fire, if you will, raging in the body. But it could be a small campfire. You just kind of tweak something in your foot or ankle. If you had just a little, little twisty twist, nothing bad, and you shake it off and keep on going. Or it could have been something real severe where you felt a pop and boom, massive swelling. And those are the obvious signs of inflammation. Inflammation is actually a good thing. Inflammation comes in to secure an area and set up a brigade of to allow the body to know where the trauma is, to a particular part of the body. But inflammation can also be running rampant in the shadows, and inflammation can be in our cardiovascular system, and we don't get.
It's something you don't see.
You don't see it as well, and I think that oftentimes we wish there was good testing out there that could help us see more clearly, and it just there is and there isn't, right? There, a lot of the tests are snapshots in time of where people are that moment, and 10, 15 minutes later, the body's adapted and moved on from where it was 10 minutes ago. But if you start seeing trends and patterns and correlate it back with history, you can almost say, oh, well, this is the picture, and every time these are the symptoms, and you start putting these pieces together, you can almost see that they are inflamed, and there is inflammation running in the body. And so, we have a test in our office that's called an omega Quant test. And what the omega Quant test looks at is omega-3 to omega-6 fatty acid ratios in the body. And why that's something we want to even look at, we oftentimes have our beginner patients start right there. The reason for it is because if you don't, omega-6 and omega-3 fats are kind of the flame retardant. They are the water, per se, that is an indicator of how well is your body managing environmental inflammatory stressors and or internal inflammatory stressors through just natural body processes. I mean, because just you being alive with the amount of biochemistry going on, there's inflammation being generated, but your body is also putting the fire out. It's like a gas stove. You use it when you need it, and you get your job done, and then you turn the fire off, and boom, the fire goes away. And that would be a natural process. The omega Quant test looks at the ratio between omega-6 fatty acids and omega-3 fatty acids. The average it should be about 3-1, maybe 6-1. The average coming in is about 33-1, meaning people have raging inferno forest fires present in their body, driving their body's cry for pain. Like it's telling them they have, whether it's a headache or whether it's the skin rash, whether it's they have hormone dysregulation or they have some sort of other symptom, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. They have joint pain, finger pain, specific. It's right here, Dr. Chapa. I can feel it in my thumb every day, or I can feel it in my toe every day. It could be blood sugar, being off if they're testing their blood sugar, or it could even just be simply the swing of blood sugar. I mean, how many people are walking around and they blame their mood and behavior on hangry, or what we know is hunger pain, right? What's a hypoglycemic inflammatory response? Like the body's having a hard time regulating blood sugar biochemically, and it's overheating the body, and the body's flipping out. I mean, that's stressful for the body to deal with. And we can't see the fire. If you could see the back of a carburetor on a little go-kart engine and it says hot, odds are you're going to not touch it, right? Kurt might touch it, but you and I aren't going to touch it.
Right, yeah. Is it really hot?
Is it really hot? Let me
it
just
is.
grab. Ouch, that's warm. Sorry, Kurt, didn't mean to call you out there. But, the inflammation is ever around us, and we are bombarded with bad foods, poor quality fats. I mean, if you are eating any fast food today, you're eating partially hydrogenated oil, which is a fat that disrupts or adds to, it disrupts your healing state and exacerbates your inflammation state. It'll leave inflammation present in the body for months if you do that often and regularly enough. And so what is an example of partially hydrogenated oil? It's any bad rancid oil that your food is being cooked in, and a lot of the preservative oils that your food is being preserved in. These are inflammatory fats that your body has a very, very difficult time breaking down. They actually bog down the liver, distract the liver, and your body has a hard time getting its day-to-day work done. And so just like you get overwhelmed, your body gets overwhelmed, and that creates inflammation in the body. And so inflammation then can lie dormant or lie present in a particular area of the body, and you start seeing symptoms, whether it's in your mind, your brain, and it's a headache, or whether it's in your heart and it's a blood pressure problem or a skipped beat here or there, or now we're starting to see even more advanced forms. Like if those people come in with an omega quant like 33 to 1, we know that, well, there's your AFib. You got like an autoimmune level condition going on in the heart. So the other thing that the omega quant looks at is it looks at the ratio of arachidonic acid to EPA, which is it measures how many firefighters do you have capable in the body to fight the inflammatory responses. And so we want to know where the fire is, if we can find it, or we just want to trust that the body can find it, because we can't see it. But we've got to know, like, all right, well, how do we get the bad fats out? Well, number one, recognize where they're coming from. Any fast food, any processed box food, most of your chips loaded with processed fatty acids that are inflammatory and can hurt you more than they can help you. Now, is one chip going to hurt you? But who eats one chip? Is one fast food meal going to hurt you? Every now and again, I don't know. It depends on where you're at right now. I've got some patients I can say 100% yes, that and 2 ounces, 3 ounces of French fries will literally push you over the edge for 2 weeks. I've got people that get into sugar. Sugar is another driver of inflammation. And so what happens is there is a measurement of a molecule called interleukin 6, and it's what increases whenever your inflammation processes go up. And we want to drive these interleukin 6 levels down. We want to get your body more in a or a de-inflammatory state, not an inflammatory or stimulating the inflammation cycle. And because what happens is as a fire sits in a particular area, it's just like it'll burn the tissue. Or if it's just a subtle fire, it's just where it always is, and it always shows up there like a check engine light. Mm-hmm. And so and again, it can show up in your diagnosis, and it can show up in just you having mood swings day in and day out every day. Like if you have patterns of headaches, if you have patterns of sleep disruption, if you have patterns of palpitations, or you don't handle stress well, you go into events and, you're just a basket case going into some sort of talk that you have to do for that day. These are things that now you're bringing in psychological stresses, throwing kerosene on the fire, driving these pro-inflammatory levels up, and it's damaging the tissue. And so at our office at Living Well, we're always assessing your stress. We're always assessing your inflammatory status. We look at blood work for that. We look at this omega quant test for that. And we know that if we can get you just eating better quality, healthier fats, like fish, for example, fish oils, every program that we build has a fish oil built into it. But if we could even get you to consume more fish products, we know that we can get your inflammation state down. That's a good place for us to start as something simple that you could do. And we also build protocols of listening to people's care plans. We can hear the inflammation screaming. We have toxicity questionnaires on our website and our paperwork, and when you come into the office, we ask you several layers of question because, when people come in and they fill out a survey or they do our paperwork, it's linear and flat, right? But people are dynamic. They have other parts of their story to share. And we want to share that we want to hear that story, because we know that there's things that you'll tell us that you won't write down, and there's things that you'll write down that you'll forget to tell us. I mean, because that's just the way it goes. There's a lot of people that coming in today, they have multiple symptom issues that they would like to see resolved, whether it was weight loss or whether it was their skin problems or digestive problems, or they're chronically ill. They have chronic sleep issues. Just chronic belly pain. I mean, there's so many unfortunate things, and it's never just one. Typically, there's always a thing that finally is like the thing that you just can't tolerate no more. You know, some person it's the headache, some person it's the allergy, some person it's the GI distress. But I mean, I don't know what it is that's going to make you change. But when you're up against your precipice, you'll change. But oftentimes, there's more going on in your body that has been screaming for help for months, maybe even a year or two. And then finally you come in or you go to see other doctors, and they don't give you the answers you're looking for. They don't know because it's not diagnosable yet. It goes back to the weed versus the oak tree. Easier to get that weed than it is to cut down that oak. You know what I mean? I mean, we're dealing with something like that at the office. Like we have to cut down a big old pecan tree that's touching our building. Beautiful pecan tree. But that silly squirrel put it in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
You know, it's his fault, you know. But now they got to cut this mammoth thing down. I mean, you and I don't even think could hug it and get around it. I mean, that's how big it is. And
is the city cool with it? Because I know they're pretty particular about trees and
this
stuff.
one happens to be a protected species, but it literally is touching my building.
Yeah.
And I have, like, it, you know, I'm really thankful. They've been really good to me. And you know, they're gonna have to cut it down, and they are next week. And but it's just one of these, like, wow. You know, I'd rather deal with a weed that I don't have to get permission to pull out than to deal with, you know, a pecan tree that has taken months, you know, to deal with, because it's
a drastic change.
It's
like,
a drastic change.
If it was a little bit of work, or now it's like, hey, you got to put in a lot of work to make it happen. And
that's what inflammation's all about. You know, like, we want to interrupt the inflammatory cycle early. This test, the Omega Quant test, is $60 or something like that. It's really affordable, and it gives us a real cool, quick picture to know how much essential fatty acids do you need. Good guys, how many inflammatory firefighters do you need? Because if you are taking fish oil day in and day out, but you're taking a rancid fish oil, you're contributing to the inflammatory process. This test will help you figure out if you're taking enough fish oil or getting enough fats in your diet, or if we need to change the game for you. And it's a really affordable, easy test, because inflammation is driving, exacerbating exponentially your condition, your symptom patterns. And so we have other products that control the damaging process in our office. We have, you know, nutrients. We always talk about vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. One of my favorite products to help quickly decrease interleukin-6 and improve the tissue repair process is a product called Imuplex from Standard Process. What it does is it's a blood builder. And so it has all your immune alliance factors. It's got spleen support, it's got lymphatic support, liver support, GI support, blood building support, all mixed into one product. I mean, it's phenomenal. And I mean, I don't know a better way to touch darn near every part of your immune alliance. Because remember, I don't talk about immune systems. We all hear people talking about building up the immune system. I'm talking about the alliance. I want the spleen and lymphoid tissue working. I want the kidneys draining. I want the bowels moving. I want your body to communicate synergistically to know, hey, there's a fire over in Sector 6. We need to make sure that that's controlled and maintained before we move over to finish that repair job over in the liver Section 2. You know what I mean? Like, the body is constantly knowing where the processes need to be targeted whenever we have an inflamed issue. Because if your body divides and conquers, sometimes it can get overwhelmed. But if we have good omega-3 and omega-6 ratios, if we have good support coming in the form of nutrients, it is a phenomenal way to help boost and bolster and strengthen the alliance so that your body can work on multiple things at once and not get overwhelmed. And so then we come in with a simple mineral like zinc. I mean, zinc is a very hot subject matter right now. We've been talking zinc for my entire career. We do in-house zinc testing and very effective way to figure out 300 different processes working in your favor or working against you. If you don't have enough zinc, your immune system is taxed. If you don't have enough zinc, you can't digest food well in the stomach. That's never good. You know what I mean? If your skin, hair, nails are flared up, you might have a zinc deficiency, meaning acne. It could be hair falling out, hair thinning. It could be that you are kind of prone towards rashes. These are all potential signs that your zinc levels are off. And so we know that we want to come in from multiple angles to boost and strengthen you up when you're deficient, because 95 out of 100 people do our zinc testing, they come back deficient, like completely depleted of zinc. And it's amazing how their bodies perform. I mean, the male stores 80% of their zinc in the prostate. And so cancer prevention for males is maximizing zinc absorption and having enough in reserve that your prostate is preserved, and not petrified like old and worn out and swollen, but preserved in it's repairing itself, it's cleansing itself, it's working and operating at full capacity. Males store 80% of their zinc right there. I mean, and most people don't know that. And so that's an important vitamin D. We know how important vitamin D is, especially because, again, zinc, COVID, N-acetylcysteine, these are all like cash money, COVID conversations, right? But we know that D is a very key player in the regulation of essential fatty acids and calcium balance. So we need calcium to run most of your immune systems, your immune alliance, to integrate them, and for just basic physiologic process in the body. But what if you delivered the goods to the front porch, but you never opened the door, Gardy? You never went around to the front and you picked up the goods. You just let it all pile up on the front. Sooner or later, you would never see the front door. Right. Well, you need vitamin D to help open the door. And it's a key integrator of opening and closing the cell membrane to allow nutrients to go past, specifically being calcium. So we look at different aspects of these three. We got fats, we got the Imuplex, the zinc, and the D. If that's all you had for products, you are decreasing interleukin-6 pro-inflammation development. You are interrupting the inflammatory cycle in such a way where you're going to get ahead of the tissue damage and start accelerating tissue repair. And so whether you have a thyroid that's broken, whether you have a skin eruption, whether you have fatty liver disease or fatty liver syndrome, whether you have hypoglycemia, whether you have any condition, ailment, you want to simply start pulling inflammatory responses down, improving the body's ability to repair tissue. Makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. And how can these nutrients be so overlooked? I'm not sure. I think a lack of education. I mean, because we've been teaching it for 18 years that we've been doing this stuff. My mentors have been teaching it, 25, 35, 45, 52 years in practice. I think it's my oldest, personal mentor that has been doing this stuff. And so somebody's being educated, but I think it goes back to we're just not educating enough. There needs to be more of us on the radio, more of us, speaking to the many, to the masses, telling people how to perform better, how to live better, one bite at a time, one supplement at a time, one drink at a time, preferably like H2O. By the way, have you ever thought about water, for example? Hydrogen and oxygen are very combustible, right? They drive fires. But yet we use H2O, hydrogen and oxygen, to put out fires. Interesting.
It reminds me of like that thing, like you have to have something to take off something. You know what I'm talking about? Like it's like, like if you get oil on your hands, you have to use a special oil soap, or
right.
It's math.
Well, it's chemistry.
Yeah.
And so when you put two hydrogens and a oxygen together, H2O, mm-hmm. you get a different compound than these combustible isolated things. So you can never, and this is when we start looking at the type of zinc. I mean, are you doing zinc chelate, zinc lactate? The calcium carbonate, calcium lactate. We look at these different types of calcium minerals that people bind up in a pill or a tablet or a capsule and sell. And some of these things aren't in their very nature easily usable by a human species, right? So we want to make sure that the things that you are taking, that your body can leverage and use for this tissue repair, not create more stress that your body has to be like, I think I'm thankful because this has actually become more work to use that. Like most people buy calcium by the pallet, at a mass manufacturer type place, not realizing that it's calcium carbonate. And calcium carbonate has to go through 11 to 12 chemical reactions before the body can use it. Calcium lactate is 1 to 2 chemical reactions. What's easier to digest, 1 to 2 chemical reactions or 11?
The 1 to 2.
Yeah, all day long. But it's a little bit more expensive than the carbonate, right? But it's more readily usable. It requires less energy, less heat, faster delivery. It's just an all-around better resource for the body. So not all vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids are created equal. You've got to make sure you know the source. So we go through a lot of trouble in our office to make sure that we vet out and protect you guys by giving you the 2.5% of the product lines out there that are safe, are effective, and that will get the job done that we know you're wanting. I don't want you taking any vitamin D. I don't want you taking just any zinc. I don't want you taking just any, quote-unquote immune builder. I want you to make sure that you know that it's going to do what the science and the research says it'll do. And so just taking any old thing off the shelf is not a good idea. So that we always tell our patients, if you have a question, call us first. Let us be your health and wellness resource so that you understand what you need to be taking more often. Come in for a visit so we can analyze what you're doing or not doing, what you need and not need. Because you might be taking, things that you don't necessarily need right now. I don't take everything on my shelf. I take a lot of stuff. I just don't take everything. You know what I mean? And I'm still learning. Time of day of some of these nutrients is important. And so we also jump into the, how to decrease, again, we're talking about inflammation, aka fire, aka symptoms and or advanced disease, depending on the size of the fire. That's how you want to look at this. And we say, what about the sulforaphane type family, these things that drive down a pro-inflammation or tissue damage? Well, what in the world is sulforaphane? Spanish black radish. This has got the constituent phytonutrients, phytochemicals that will reverse inflammatory responses. It'll headlock it, drive it into the dirt, and flush it out. It is awesome. I mean, this is a different, so instead of using just water, now we're coming in with like a fire extinguisher or some sort of specific, quote-unquote, special chemical, like you said, to wash off that type of exposure. Now, this isn't a chemical. These are phytonutrients, phyto meaning micro, small nutrients that your body can leverage and use to put out the metaphoric fire. So I like the idea of throwing dirt on it because Spanish black radish smells like dirt, tastes worse than dirt, but the inflammatory processes can't stand it. They run from it. They dissipate. They fall apart in its presence. They bow to it. A Spanish black radish is a number one player for me. And if I had the ability to put every human on Spanish black radish, I would, because everybody can afford to flush out their lymph system. Just like you flush the fluids on your car, just like you change your filters, rotate your tires, you do all these maintenance things. If I could take out your lymphatic system, beat it with it like a rug, put it back in, 5-6 minutes later, you'd be well again. Literally, cancer, anything. Your lymphs are that important. And when they get dirty, you're in trouble. Trouble. Nobody likes trouble, Gardy. Not when it comes to their health. And it's that simple. But the problem is you can't take the lymph out while the engine's running. When's the engine stop running? When you're dead.
One day.
One day, not today. We want to stare death in the eye and say, not today. And so we use Spanish black radish, hemp oil, or these things that are driving your CBD processes in the body, broccoli sprout extracts, artichokes, in order to use in this sulforaphane process of down-regulating interleukin-6. We don't want more to exacerbate the fire. We don't want to throw fuel on its fire. We want to fight the process and then prevent it from occurring. We want to make sure that we build your house in such a way that you're more in a flame retardant state where it's very difficult for your body to get out of sorts. Because it's easier to keep things in order when you have order. It's hard to go in and be like completely overwhelmed. Where do you start? And a friend of mine just sent me a picture, and it was disturbing because he was in a real estate group, and they sent him this picture of this potential house to buy. It was going to be definitely a fixer-upper. One of the rooms, it was like a dining room, had a chandelier table, and the room was waist deep in Coke cans, Pepsi Cola cans, Diet Coke cans, Dr. Pepper cans. Every soda pop can under the sun must have been in this room.
Right.
And you just go, wow, who went through the trouble of putting all those in there? What was the intent of all of these things to be present in a home, in a house at waist deep level in the entire room? They couldn't even walk in it. It was like it just doesn't make sense.
But it started with one can.
But it started with what is
one
that?
Can at a time.
One can could have been the ease of, hey, just throw that one thing away every day consistently, and instead now we've got inflammation waist deep. That's not good. TREBLE, right? It's a lot of work to fix that. And even though those little cans are light, they add up. Mm-hmm. And there's a big problem on their hand, and who knows what was left in those cans and what those cans are attracting. And you could see this probably wouldn't be for the faint at heart. Somebody would have to really know what they were doing if they wanted to go in and deal with that type of construction fiasco. Because that's not even the construction part. But we could, again, use these sulforaphanes to come in and again, Spanish black radish, the CBD type lines. We use a hemp oil complex. That's broccoli sprout extracts as well as the CBD pathways, the hemp complex. We're real big into full-fledged complexes as opposed to isolated. We're not going to just give you CBD oil. We're going to give you the full complex so that your body knows how to take apart what your take apart the overall process, break it down into what it can reformulate into its need, and that's how the body does. It takes words, digests it into letters, and then reformulates new words. It's very resourceful. We just got to make sure that we have an abundance of words to put into the digestive system so that it can be broken down into an abundance of letters so that you never run out of your Scrabble game play and you're always winning by building new words, right? And so we want to see that happen. And so we then come in and we'll probably recommend a dietary change. We're going to get rid of the 4 deadly food additives. So what are those? That's going to be like your partially hydrogenated oil. That's going to be your artificial sugars. That's the pink stuff, the yellow stuff, and the blue stuff. We're going to get you to get rid of all of that because it's poisoning your nervous system. It's driving inflammation. It's confusing your body to, I need to build this word, but I don't got the letters to do it. Now, they keep giving me, S's that are backwards and X's that are missing lines, and you know what I mean? That's just that the body doesn't know how to formulate using fake ingredients. That'd be things like high fructose corn syrup, or crystalline fructose. These are poisons that stress out all cell physiology. So now cell to cell, the communication is disrupted. That's not going to fly either, is it? Mm-mm. And so we look at these deadly food additives, MSG being the 4th one, monosodium glutamate, known neurotoxin, and we're going to limit your exposure to these inflammatory drivers. These things add fuel to the inflammatory fire. So at every point in the inflammatory fight, we are either feeding the inflammation or we're pulling the strings and choking out the inflammation. And whenever you're the human with inflammation, you want somebody helping you pull those strings. And at Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center, we're going to help show you where the inflammation's coming in. You've got to avoid the fast food. I had a patient frustrated because they couldn't lose weight, but they keep going to fast food joints 3 times a week, maybe every day. Because
3 times a day, maybe.
maybe 3 times a day.
Yeah.
I mean, and they don't realize. They say, "Well, but the movie Super Size Me just blamed that one restaurant." They don't realize that they're all the same.
It's the healthy one.
Yeah, that's right. And so just because you've got a Christian chicken doesn't mean that it's any better than the other chicken. It's
the devil's chicken.
The devil's chicken, yeah.
If there's God's chicken, that makes you assume
chicken.
that there has to be the devil's chicken.
That's
I don't
right.
know who that is.
I don't know who that is either. But I mean, I'm not convinced that processed fast food on the regular is going to be a part of your wellness plan. You've got to clean up your diet. The more and more I work with humans, the more I realize how toxic they are and how toxic we are and how much we're exposed to the stuff. And we've got to be willing and able to change more often than not. So can you ever get into that stuff? Yeah. But man, I've got some people that literally can only tolerate it once a month, and they can, and their body will pay a small fee and small price, but at least they can afford it once a month, right? I got some people that they can get into it a couple times, 3 times a week. I notice kids, kids can typically get away with that more frequently than adults, but I'm seeing a generation now that can't. They get into the slightest a bit of sugar, and you see them go into these brain fog states, these ADD states, these ADHD states, and they can't think straight. They can't think left, right, Sunday. They can't do math. They can't read words on a page. I mean, their little eyes are just like, building all kinds of weird patterns, and they're having a hard time processing and comprehending. And if you are somebody that struggles with names, numbers, and words, odds are you're putting in 1, 2, maybe even all 4 of the 4 deadly food additives. MSG is known to disrupt the way the brain fires and creates space for you to process names, numbers, and words. Artificial sugars can pollute and contaminate the body, distract the liver from doing productive work to do detoxification work in excess, and so now you wonder why you don't have output energy. Partially hydrogenated oil is like walking through mud. It's very difficult and dirty. And so when you put these things in, that drives inflammatory processes. Inflammation, again, being a fire in your body. Where it is, depending on the type of disease or symptoms that you have, those symptoms then can get worse into a full-out disease, and now you've got a named diagnosis, and so now the only treatment option, of course, is medication. No. We don't want to sabotage your system by putting more drugs in. We want to give you tools to decrease the inflammatory response, to increase the tissue repair response, so that your body will get a grip and move forward in a powerful, abundant way. That's wellness. That's getting back on the horn. That's on the train. That's moving in a better direction. And no matter where you're at, you can make 1 degree of change today that moves you forward. And
even if you're in the room full of Coke cans?
Yeah, 1 Coke can out is 1 step closer to all those Coke cans being out, because you're going to start creating a pattern. And we get enough patterns. So I have people that start with just tracking vegetables and drinking more water. That's it. That's all I want them to do, because they see how little in the form of phytonutrients, phytochemicals they're actually consuming. It helps them. If I can get them off the 4 deadly food additives, or the 4 most common food allergens, wheat, dairy, corn, and soy, we start to see the inflammation go down. And 1 degree of change. And we do that consistently. And now, again, going back to the conversation, that 1 cheat meal might have an interest to pay for 3, 4, 5 days, maybe 2 weeks, depending on what they got into. And so they don't move forward fast. But what happens is that they start getting some momentum, and they start knowing. I mean, because innately, you know what you should do. You just have a hard time with the discipline, because there's so many distractions, there's so many stressors, there's so many influences. I mean, people are guilted, Gardy, into eating garbage and treating their bodies terribly. I mean, isn't it sad?
Yeah.
We don't praise people for being on a detox, right? It's just like we talked about last week with Jennifer and the detox. Is people go, oh, okay, well, let me know when you're off the detox. I'll go ahead and retox you. You know, no. Why don't you ask questions like, hey, how do I get on one of those detox? Maybe I need one of those. What's it all about? No, we go, well, let me know when I can be a part of the retox program, because I'm all about that. Well, the problem is, and I had somebody say the other day, oh, that's my future self problem. And literally, that's what she said. Oh, she goes, that's okay. That's my future self's problem. Well, what if your future self is tomorrow? Next week? What if it's closer than you realize? And you're starting to right now develop conditions and symptoms that are those little weeds that can easily be plucked out, but you wait until it turns into the big oak or the big pecan or the protected species. Your body's so confused, Gardy, that you have a protected species of disease. That's called autoimmunity, where your body actually protects the inflammation process. That's when you know the enemy has really infiltrated the camp. That's when you know that your defenses are really jacked, and you're going to have to do a lot of work to turn that process around. Will it turn around? Of course it will turn around, Gardy. Your body knows also how to get back on the right rail and go in the right direction. Onward, upward, goodward, and Godward, as we always like to say, right? But we've got to start implementing some of these practices. We've got herbs that we'll bring in. One of my favorites is black cumin seed. Not currant seed like I use for the adrenal glands, and because that is actually a pro-inflammatory oil, and in some respects we do use it because, again, inflammation is not inherently bad. We might have a time and place that we need to finish an inflammatory process to finish the healing, to start the healing right and end it right? But whenever we use black cumin seed, it will come in. It's like the mothership of inflammatory reducers in an herb form. And black cumin seed is a great support with people that have advanced disorders, autoimmunity, advanced disorders like cancers, and can support the body and protect other tissues from being infiltrated. Very neat product. Black cumin seed, simple, easy product. People just take 2 tablets a day of this. I take 1 a day, often, if not every day, several times a week, because I want just that boost and bonus for my body to be leveraging different plants and herbs in an inflammatory society, because we do all live in an inflammatory society. Some people call it the fast food nation. Whatever's driving your condition, I want to help you do little things in the medicine tool chest and the herbal tool chest to put that fire out regularly. And so black cumin seed, amazing. What about Andrographis, another one of my favorite anti-infectives and or immune support products. Boost and bolsters the body to clear out different types of bacterial bugs that are lurking in the shadows. Too often, people are carrying different types of biofilms, infections, and viruses, and parasites, and fungi that are literally robbing their body of nutrition. So as I'm putting in good nutrition, I'm using herbs and other detox programs to flush these poisons out of the body, and I use these herbs to bolster and strengthen the body to see, hey, that guy doesn't belong. Yeah, somebody said it was a protected species, but he's an imposter, and we need to clear it, and we will, and we do. And so Andrographis and black cumin, amazing. Tumeric. Everybody knows about the tumeric. Well, we use a special tumeric that is 45 times more influential on inflammation. And the way we know that is because it's got the fenugreek in it. And what the fenugreek does is it breaks up these fungal mucus-forming bugs. They don't stand a chance because the body, bugs like you to be stagnant. Viruses, fungi, parasites, bacteria, they want you to be still, and they want to take advantage of you. Well, I am in business to mobilize you as much as possible. And so in the turmeric, we bridge it with fenugreek and found that it is 45 times more anti-inflammatory than just mixing your turmeric with black pepper. it's doing that's okay, but we found that you have to consume so much black pepper that it's not really realistic that you could consume that much. It ain't just a little sprinkle.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't a dabble, do you? It's and most black peppers are dead nutrients. They don't provide us any value. So by mixing the turmeric into a regimen of high level of inflammation, it disrupts the mucus building support of these slugs, these bugs that are traveling and lurking in the shadows, making you sluggish and stagnant. A recipe for inflammation, a recipe for further development of a campfire into a barn, into a building level fire. We use these things to disrupt that ability to build those colonies inside of your natural habitat. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love the analogy. I love the ideas that these herbs are here to break down the processes, but how they do it is very fascinating. Like this one's through the mucus forming capacity, right? And so the Boswellia complex, people know Boswellia, very anti-inflammatory. You mix that with enzymes, and now you've got an herbal Tylenol. And so instead of you reaching for a inflammatory reducing non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug that destroys your liver and kidneys, now you've got a herbal blend and a herbal blend of support that can sabotage inflammation from running rampant but not destroy your liver, to not destroy your kidneys. That's a good thing when we live in a toxic society. We got to get out of this, this common thread that it's okay to take all these over-the-counter drugs as we do. God has always provided us a resource for bettering our body, giving us tools in the midst of the storm. Wherever you're at in the world, there's typically 2 to 3 antidotes for every situation toxin that you're exposed to, whether it's a venomous bite, a stinging insect, or poisonous plant. There's 2 to 3 levels of inflammation reduction or protective support for whatever you're being exposed to. And I think that's just absolutely by design. Glory to be God for that. And so that's a cool thing. And so people like teas. One of the best teas, green tea, it's got a slew of polyphenols. We use a product that has green tea polyphenol extracts called Vitanox, but people that can drink green teas will literally interrupt this pro-inflammatory state. And so I love helping people see that they can come in and they have a tool of nutrients, herbs, and lifestyle that they can bridge together, and they can begin to see inflammation reverse. It's a new paradigm shift that we've got to get people to start walking down. And when we get them to start walking down that road, yes, sometimes in the beginning it's tough. What stores to shop at? What part of the stores do you need to shop out? Where can you go to get a cheaper version or a cheaper bulk item? Like I found that Kerrygold butter, you can get it at some of these big box stores for cheaper than you can at local grocery stores. Sometimes you can't find some of these healthy things, so I'll start patients at local farmers markets, because you can never go wrong mostly, or small nutrition stores, because they carry a lot of variety of healthy options that can be de-inflammatory and get people started right. All life starts and stops at the
cellular level.
All day, every day.
And nutrition is the fundamental backbone.
That's right. That drives your body either out of control or back on the right road. And we want to get you on that right road. And we want to help see you move forward with whatever condition that you've been diagnosed with, or any symptom that you're dealing with. So if you are struggling like with depression or anxiety, which a lot of people are right now, depression has doubled in the last 2 years since COVID started, because people have been isolated. People are living in fear. People have a lot more challenges with the bug. I mean, my son was playing golf, and at the end of the golf game, a kid comes up to him and Dash sticks his hand out and says, "Hey, good game." The guy goes, "Hey, have you had your shot? Have you been jabbed?"
The kid said
and I'm like, this is this is 12-year-old talk now.
Yeah.
You know, like I didn't know 12-year-olds like that. They shouldn't be worried about stuff like that, right? But yet that's people are afraid and worried and concerned, and now we've got to do hygiene checks and shot checks to make sure that we can even be friends with folks. You know, this is a scary world, right? And so this is a place where we have to start realizing that we got to know our tools. We have to know how the body works. We have to take full responsibility for how we can make a difference. It's your life, your health, your choice. And the more choices that you make with the right education, and this is what we strive to do every week here on KGA, don't we? We want to get on this podcast and kick butt in giving you the best of the best and nutrient information so that you can take it, apply it, and see change starting today. 1 degree of change is all it takes in order to move your health from where it is right now to where you want it to go in the future. And every week we get on our podcast show and live radio and live stream. I mean, we are literally delivering the goods 9 to 10 every Tuesday morning. We are teaching classes every month. We have macrofix classes every couple weeks. We are very busy at outreach as well as internal one-on-one. You know, doing phone visits with people that are out of state. We are constantly finding ways to get into people's lives and stir their routines up in a way that is positive and influential, helping them move forward in a way better than they were before.
Is there any classes that are coming up? I know today's Tuesday, and y'all usually have some regularly.
Yes. So last Tuesday was or last Monday was our macrofix class. The previous Tuesday was our thyroid class. So we don't have any this month. It'll be the next month, and I can't remember the date at the moment, but I'll have them, give you that information for people to tune in. But you're always welcome to come and learn. And be a part of what we're doing. It is great because we have a live class, we have a Zoom class stream, and so we're able to reach people that are busy, or we're getting to where we can post those things. So there's no reason you can't get good information and good education. People just need this new level of insight.
It's always good to stop in, and I stopped in the other day, last week, right? And I picked up some supplements that I needed. I saw you for a bit, and then I also picked up one of the seasonings, and there's so many options. And I told him, which one should I get? Because there were so many different ones, and I've heard you talk about them before. I ended up settling on the mango habanero, but I suggested to them, I said, there should be like a featured flavor seasoning of the month, so that way everybody can like kind of rock the recipes together and stuff.
I think you're right. What I've been doing lately is I've taken the honey butter and the Death by Chocolate, and I poured a little bit over my oatmeal. Unreal. The flavor in your mouth is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, that looks like a good way to fix that up. We have one up there that's my personal favorite, the Hawaiian Barbecue. I haven't found anything that it doesn't go great on.
Right.
I mean, it truly is like a fix-all for all of your terrible cooking behaviors. I mean, you can enhance the flavor of anything, Gardy, with this spice, and I mean it's sweetened with beet sugar, and so it is just got an array of different flavors, but they blended it really well and gave us a rockin' barbecue that will rattle your taste buds. It's not overly hot for those that don't like hot, but it gives you a little bit of that pizzazz, that zest and savory all in a bottle.
Sometimes your food is missing, especially if you're trying to, I'm staying on track.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's missing because you don't know what to get. And so was an awesome.
How many times have we stood before the spice thing at the grocery store and gone, I wonder what that would do? And then you go, what do you use that for? And then you stand there and go, I don't know how to mix all this stuff. Well, we just partnered with a company and are working on different blends, and these guys have put together blends already for us. We don't have to think about it. So that you got the mango habanero. It's a piece of heaven.
Yeah, it's good. I've been using it. So I have like my meal prep that I get from PowerFit Meals.
Yeah,
and I love working with them. And then sometimes I'll just put some on the rice or vegetables and stuff like that.
It's good by themselves, right? Yeah. But if you add a little of that, it just takes it up a notch. I mean, it is literally like that, like bam.
Yeah.
It gets it done. And I think you're right. I think we'll definitely have to feature those. But I think if we could get people to start enjoying the food that they're eating, they'll be more apt to take meals from home and not feel like they need to go get into these, fast food, craze and get caught up in the inflammatory responses. Because most restaurants, unless they specifically advertise, they don't use partially hydrogenated oils, which very few that I've ever found do. They're using bad oils because they're cheap, and it's just business, right? Except not when it's my body. Nothing but the best for my body is what I'm always about, and I want to give my body options to perform at the best level possible, and I think that you do too.
I do,
yes. And I think that we want that for our kids, we want that for our spouses, we want that for our parents, we want that for our grandkids. We have to teach. So had one of my daughters wake up, and she had a little bit of a sniffle and a sneeze and cough and a little drippy down the back of the throat, and she goes, I'm not, I feel a little congested. I said, oh yeah, what are you gonna do about that? She goes, I'm gonna stop eating sugar, and I'm gonna go take some Congoplex and get some sesame seed oil and drop some INF fighter down the hatch. And I go, excellent. I mean, I don't even have to tell them, like, they know. I'm teaching them the way, and that way they have tools under 15, 12, 10, 5. They know that there's an answer. My 5-year-old's been coming to me every night and said, Dad, can you pop my bones? Can you work on me? And she goes, oh, I like how that one feels. Ooh, that one moved good. I mean, you got a 5-year-old that's appreciating her body moving in a healthy way.
That's awesome.
And I go, I mean, like, wowzer. Like, and so do you think I turned her away when she asked? Heck no. Last night it was like 9:45, and she comes in there, and I'm literally about dozing off, and eyes are rolling in the back of my head, glasses are already off, it's already dark. She goes, Daddy. Yes, my darling. And she goes, can you wiggle my bones? And I'm like, dang right I can wiggle those bones, honey. Flip that lamp on, let's get her done. And we got it done, and she loved it, and I want people to love all the aspects that they can do, whether it's structural care, chiropractic, whether it's massage, whether it's acupuncture. There's so many cool structural things you can do to manage and manipulate the chemistry in the nervous system in your favor.
They're all just tools. Kind of leads back. It's all tools.
Yes, and this is what we're always trying to promote on our show, is just good, healthy tools. Food is medicine. Fundamentally, food is everything. We supplement nutrient-wise. Supplementally, some people accuse us of supplementing too heavy, but the reality is when you're putting in 10 pounds of fire, inflammation support with your bad diet choices, we have to come in pretty hot and heavy to help give you a fighting chance to put those fires out. And in time, on our side, we don't really always have, but we try to use the supplements to speed up our education process so that you can see that you've got to start making better choices, and that you can, and sometimes give you those choices because you might not know.
Right.
And not everybody knows. And so we have to appreciate that everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's on their own path. But ultimately, it's still, whether you are educated or ignorant,
it's your life, your health.
It's your life, your health, your choice. You knew where he was going with that. And so every week, KGA Radio and Living Well team up to bring you a positive show of information. I was going to say inflammation. No, not inflammation. We don't want to be a agitation, inflammatory response. We want it to be something that you want to share with your friends, family, and loved ones. You can visit us at justlivewell.com. You can call us at 281-554-8600. We ask that you share out this podcast. Gardy, where can they find us?
If you go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, search for Living Well Clinical Nutrition Center. You can search for Just Live Well and then find it. You'll see the logo, subscribe, and it'll be available right now.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you every week live that you can make it, but know that we want you to share and get this information into those family, friends, and loved ones' hands that need it most. And we just pray that you have a blessed and wonderful day, and we'll check you later.
This is KGA Radio, 99.5 FM.